The screen is locked.
Don't be loud. Okay. Bye guys. Now just
We got your back, Morgan.
Good evening. Welcome to your Zeta Mu podcast, where all things business, health, wealth, success, Zeta Mu chapter has it for you. My name is Erica Belton. I'm the chapter president of the Zeta Mu chapter of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated. I'm happy to present to you all a wonderful project on behalf of the chapter. I'm going to now turn this event over to my second vice, Morgan Williams. So sit back, relax, and let us know in the comments where you're from. And if you have questions, we'll reflect those as well. So be interactive in the comments, and you never know, someone may answer your question. Enjoy yourselves.
thank you so much, Madam President. I appreciate the introduction. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Zeta Mu chapter of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Yes Committee, we are thrilled to welcome you tonight to our event on unconventional careers. We are so excited to have you join us as we explore the diverse and inspiring journeys of professionals who have taken the roads less traveled. This evening is all about opening minds, breaking boundaries, and showing our future IOTA leaders that success doesn't always follow a traditional path. We are honored to feature two phenomenal guests this evening, Soror Alexia Martinez and Mr.Brad Eaton, who will be sharing their stories, insight, and wisdom of navigating unique and meaningful career paths. Their experiences will no doubt encourage our
I
youth
can't hear.
to dream big, and pursue their passions with confidence. Thank you for being here with us, and let's get ready for an evening full of inspiration,
No.
discovery, and motivation. Sora Dawn.
Thank you, Soror Morgan, for that wonderful introduction. And good evening, Sorors and guests. We are so delighted to have you here this evening. And I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing one of my very beautiful, talented, and vivacious sorors, Alexia Martinez. And I am going to tell you a little bit about her as we journey into this path of unconventional careers. So, Alexia Martinez is an environmental program scientist currently working for the U.S. government. Her program focuses on environmental and compliance conditions, environmental policy, and regulatory statutes. She completed her undergraduate in environmental science at the University of Maryland, College Park, and subsequently earned a master's degree. She, in the same field, her interests and hobbies include stargazing, rock collecting, and history. Very interesting. And the main influences in her life have been her parents and support from teachers and mentors throughout her life. For more than a decade, she worked for other agencies such as NASA, USDA, and the Department of Justice, to name a few. Welcome, Soror Alexia.
Thank you, Sordan. Appreciate that.
I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Mr. Brad Eaton. Mr. Brad Eaton is a seasoned and award winning actor, producer, and voiceover artist based in the DMV. Brad began his acting career, on stage in a second star production of 12 Angry Men, where he won Best Supporting Actor by the DC Metro Theater Arts. With a career that spans stage, screen, and studio, Brad has also appeared in powerful theatrical productions like Clybourne Park and Ragtime, as well as on screen in Head of State, Nocturnal Agony, House of Cards, Zeke, The Root of All Evil, and Behind Closed Doors. In addition to film and theater, Brad has built a robust career in commercials, industrials, and voiceover work, bringing his talent and versatility to a wide range of projects. His journey is a true example of an unconventional career shaped by creativity, resilience, and passion for storytelling. Please welcome Mr. Brad Eaton.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me to be a part of this forum. And
Thank
it's
you so
funny,
much for joining us.
I'm listening to you talk about me, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's me.
That
Well,
is
thank you
you.
so much. Yes. So, we have a few questions that our future IOTA leaders have given us to ask you all tonight. So, Dawn is going to start off with the questions, and each of you can answer whoever wants to go first. So, Soror Dawn.
Okay, wonderful. So let the discussion begin. So, our first question is, why did you choose the career that you are currently operating in?
um, if you mind, I can start first a little bit.
Go right ahead.
So it actually, I knew in sixth grade that I wanted to be an environmental scientist. And it was because it was we went to an island. It's called Fox Island off the Chesapeake Bay. A whole bunch of our student, basically my whole class went, and at that time, I was an urban kid, so I grew up in Montgomery County, and so I didn't really go outdoors. I didn't really I hadn't done camping or canoeing. I didn't really know nature too much. And so when I went to Fox Island for the first time, I saw these two and they were Chesapeake Bay scientists, and they were picking up oysters. And I'm looking at them, and keep in mind, urban kid, no idea what they're doing. And I'm like, and I asked them, I was like, hey, what are you guys doing? What are you guys working on? And they're like, oh, we're picking up these oysters. And I'm like, why? And they're like, oh, well, we're looking at the health of the Chesapeake. And then I thought for a second, and I was like, you get paid to do that? And they were like, they started laughing, and they were like, yeah, we get paid to do this. And almost all of my experience with seeing, job positions, like my uncles, my aunts, my mother, everyone would like either go into an office, or they would be like doing that kind of work. It did not occur to me, being an urban kid, like just growing up here in Montgomery County, um there was any type of job like an outdoor kind of job. And so for me, I asked like a few more questions, and they're like, well, yeah, well, we studied environmental science. And I was like, okay, okay, all right, well, thank you for that. And that was just the beginning of our little field trip. And it was just for me an amazing experience just to see them doing that type of work and being outdoors. So that triggered for me, that I wanted to study environmental science when I saw what they were doing. So
Hmm,
Mr. Eaton.
Awesome.
interesting. Well,
Awesome.
for me, I uh, I s- graduated from college in 1980 in North Carolina, and I studied sociology and social work, and I went to grad school at UNCG for my MPA. Now, I started working in the government after I graduated from high school at the Internal Revenue Service. Got a summer job there. I worked there throughout college, work study. And then after I graduated, I moved to DC and started working for the DC government as a social worker. And then I went to the feds in 1990, went to the Peace Corps as Deputy Chief of Field Operations over recruitment.
Oh,
I left there after about 5 years and I went to USDA where I wrote regulations for the WIC program. And from there, I was there for about 3 years. And then I went to the Census Bureau where I ended my career. In various roles. What happened?
You froze a little bit.
Yeah, I think we lost Mr. Eaton a little bit here.
oh, he's back. Yeah.
Maybe I was talking too much.
Not at all. Not at all.
Everybody, everybody back?
Yes.
Yes.
I, I, it was. I'm an actor now. I've been acting since 2014. I did my first play. I'd never acted before. I'd never been on a play in high school, college, or anything. And my wife told me, she said, "You always acting in front of me. Why don't you go on an audition somewhere? Do something." And there was an audition for 12 Angry Men for Second Star Production. I went to the audition. There were probably 40 men there that were auditioning for these roles. And I mean, I could read. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. And we were going through these different sides and looking at these different parts of the play, and they said, "Well, we haven't made any decisions yet. Can you come back the next day for a callback?" I'm like, "What's a callback?" I didn't know anything, so I went back, and they were whittling it down, and they said, "Okay, we're gonna want you guys to step out of the room. We're gonna call you back in by your number, and then we're gonna start reading again." And the next thing I know, I got a part on a play. Now, like I said, I'd never been on stage. I'd never had a script in my hand, but I was working with some very talented people. I I got the acting bug. It was just something about that. It was just something about being on stage. It was something about performing that just lit a fire in me. And I have not looked back. I have been involved in, being president of Bowie Community Theater. I was the first African American president of that company's theater in 60 something years. I've done commercials. I've done film. I've worked with some legends. I've worked with Cicely Tyson. I've worked with Idris Elba. I've worked with just Coleman Domingo and Rustin. Thing is that this business requires you to just go out there, put yourself out there, learn the craft, do it. You're going to get a lot of rejection, but then you're going to get a lot of, hey, yeah, we're going to use you because this business is so subjective. When you audition, when they ask for you, when you audition for something, they say send in your resume, your headshot, and a reel. They want to see your face first thing. Second thing, can you act? You do the audition. So you get some, you don't get some. I mean, I've been on auditions for what's 50 Cent show, what's that show, Power, and
Power.
um, um, Queen Latifah's show, the Equalizer. You do the audition, you get it or you don't get it. But you keep it going. You keep it moving and you don't let it get you down because you got to have a thick skin to do this work. I've worked with a lot of great people, a lot of great actors. It's a learning process. It's something that you have to love because you can get discouraged. You can get discouraged a lot because you get no's a lot. You get more no's than you do yeses. So I encourage people that are interested in acting is to follow your passion, go for it. Do not let anyone talk you out of doing what you feel that you can do because everyone has a gift and you can have careers. I know Dawn was Alexis is talking about environmental science. My granddaughter, she's doing her freshman year at Penn in environmental science. That's what
Okay.
she's studying.
Okay. Oh,
You
That's
know,
wonderful.
and yeah, so you got to just go out here and do what you got to do. I mean, when I look back on my 35-year career in the government, it was great, but nothing can top what I'm doing now. I look, and I say to myself sometimes, if I had started this earlier, I've only been doing this stuff like 10 years. I did some background work, just messing around, but I'm serious about this crap. I've got 3 films right now that are getting ready to be shown in June at the Virginia Black Film Festival. I got
Hmm.
3 films that I lead roles that are showing in this film festival. Now I'm 68 years old, and I've been doing
You
this
look
for
good.
10 years. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
you wouldn't
I appreciate it.
know
But the
it.
thing is,
Yeah, you wouldn't.
huh? Yeah, but I got six
I said
grandkids. I'm an
you
old
wouldn't
man.
know it.
I got probably got shoes older than y'all. But the thing is that you have to have a passion for what you do, and I hope that folks that are out there listening that you get go on an audition at a community theater. Um, let's see. Soror Dawn, you want to talk about voiceover. Use your talent. Go out here and be great because you can be. And that's my 2 cents worth.
It's very
Thank you so much.
inspirational. Thank you.
Yes, you actually answered the next question, so I'm just gonna have Sora Alexia answer and give her advice on someone who's interested in your field. Since you said your granddaughter or your daughter is interested in environmental science, what advice would you give her, Sora Alexia?
Well, first of all, the first thing, and he mentioned it really well. Definitely the level of you. It doesn't have to be one interest. So if she's interested in environmental science, that's amazing. But you learn very early on, and this is how I learned it: is you can have so many different interests. It doesn't have to be just one. So, and the reason I say that is because, so when I started college, obviously, I mean, at least for me, I couldn't afford it. So what I did was I found a way to combine two of my passions. So I was studying biology, but at the same time I was studying photography. And photography was for me in the beginning a hobby, but I needed it to be a job because I needed a job to work on the weekends and to go to school during the week, so
Mm-hmm.
that I had some level of an income. And of course my parents helped a lot. um so what I did find out was both of those two passions, now as I'm older, I can use them interchangeably. And I love that about it, because studying photography, I learned graphic design, I learned to be a professional photographer, and that's what I did to hold me over until I could, like, make a living being an
Right.
environmental scientist, because it's not something that you go out of college and all of a sudden you have like a 401, that's not going to happen. So what you do is, at least for me, coming from like, and what I loved about Montgomery County more than anything is it's very diverse. And so I went to a high school that had over 200 nations. So I had friends from all walks of life. But then transitioning to the University of Maryland was very different. And it was very hard for me in the beginning because I was like the only, well, I wasn't the only minority. There was another individual there, and we actually became really good friends, but we were the only um women of color that was in that class. Two women, and everybody else
Mm-hmm.
was Caucasian. And so that was hard for me because I was like, I came from like a pool of friends from everywhere to all of a sudden it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't it I mean, I made friends, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like, that connection. So what I did in college, this is a little nutty, but I took a Spanish class, like as a second language, so I could just interact and mingle with folks that didn't necessarily were in the science field, because some people were like in business field, some people were like in accounting, like all aspects of it. And I also just did I had so many interests. Like I was doing photography. I was part of the Diamondback. Like I'd be the photographer, shooting pictures for like an article. So I kind of immersed myself in different clubs to try to get better skill sets, because I knew that the minute I graduated, I needed a job. I needed like a job
Yeah,
that paid like, a little more
absolutely.
than I was making. So I would recommend more than anything, especially when you're going to college, working doing an internship, any kind of job that would allow you to be in an office setting, and then later, but for me, for environmental science, I needed field work experience. And so I researched, and back then there was no Google, you went to the library,
Call
and
catalog.
you did. It wasn't like Snap, you had all that information at the tip of your tongue. Everybody has that now, which is amazing. No, I went to the library, I took out books, I learned, I was like, okay, well, if this is the career that I want, what do I need to do to get there? And so I read
Mm.
a lot of books, and as you can see, I still read a lot of books. But that's what I did. And so I would say, and another thing that I remember doing, and this was still in college, um I was like, if no, actually I did something in high school. So there was a program that you could do an internship, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do biology or environmental science, because I thought for a second, well, let me see if I want to do medicine. So they placed me as an intern in one of the hospitals in Silver Spring, and it was a very quick way to learn that that's not what I wanted to do. Very quickly I was like, no. So it takes a while for you. I always recommend like talking to a lot of different people, making phone calls. I remember making phone calls and saying, could I do what do they call it, informational interview. Like I would call and I'm like, can you give me like, what are your day to days? Like, what do you do? Like, the type of work that you work on. And then obviously I had a lot of mentors in school, which was pretty amazing. Plus my professors were really great, and assisting me, and like, oh, Alexia, look, there's this opportunity here, or there's something here. And so that helped a lot. But definitely asking questions, being able to, how you mentioned, like putting yourself out there and saying, this is what I want to do. What do I need to do to do this type of work? And studying like crazy too, because that was another thing. There was certain things that didn't come easy, like you had to do organic chemistry, you had to do just even economics was a little, I'm like, oh my god, why do I need to learn this? So it's you get mentors everywhere, and tutors, and folks that you talk to. But I recommend more than anything just being vocal, being vocal. And if you have weaknesses, there's nothing wrong with that. Strengthen them, make those weaknesses not become weaknesses. So that was something that I did as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
One of the
That's
things you
awesome. Yeah.
you tapped on is is making building relationships and networking, because
Yeah.
this business, the acting business, that's what it's about. It's about networking with people who see your work, who are out here doing the things, that are producing, that are directing. I produce, I don't direct, but being able to tap into that network, because that drives you, that keeps you working, that keeps your ear to the ground. You mentioned you did this project about, it was they were out on the, what was it, Fox Island, and you saw oysters, and
Hmm.
I did
Yeah.
I did it's a hologram of me playing the oyster man for the Annapolis Maritime Museum, and
Oh.
we shot this right before COVID hit, Okay.
Okay.
And after COVID hit, it shut down. They were remodeling the museum and everything. And I played in about a 1800 oysterman, African American on the bay. And when you walk in
Okay.
that museum and you walk down, you're going to see this. It's like an oyster house, and then I pop up and I go into my spiel about being an oysterman. And it's about 4.5 minutes. But
Okay.
yeah, it was interesting because
Okay.
that environmental stuff. I mean, saving the bay, all of these things are is part of what's going on. And being an actor, you can get involved in a lot of different things that you probably may not even know.
Mhm.
I didn't know how to shuck an oyster, so I went on YouTube to learn
Okay.
because I had to do that
Mhm.
in doing that movie. So it was just a thing where you never know. You're learning so many different things and in different projects. And it just takes you down these roads and doing research about a
Yes.
particular thing, an illness like dementia or something like that. I did this movie, and you have to learn these things. You have to study it because it has to be realistic on film or on stage. And
Yeah.
it's that's part of the process, but that's the beauty of it because it's an art. During the
Right.
during COVID, people were shut in, people couldn't go out, but you know what they had entertainment, they had TV, they could
Mm.
entertain themselves and get their mind and go somewhere else besides what we were dealing with during that period of time.
Mhm.
So people can say,
Mm.
acting, that's whatever, but it plays a part, keeps you sane.
Absolutely.
It
I
definitely.
100%
Definitely.
agree. I hope y'all heard that, Phil. It's good to read. I'm all about the reading. So y'all should be
Yeah.
picking up books and reading what you like. But go ahead, Sordon.
Yeah. And putting yourself out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And
$100.
like Brad said, even Alexia, putting yourself out there, being open to new things, being open to things that you are not necessarily comfortable with, right? So that
Exactly.
all plays a part, and that networking is huge. And so there's a lot to be said about that. So being open, being engaging, networking, just go for it. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
if you are passionate about it, then that's what you do. Well, thank you. This is so inspirational, even for
Yes.
me. It reminds me
I
something,
played I played
yeah,
this movie called Trapped. Yeah, I was playing a preacher who was beating his wife. It was domestic violence. Okay, I never hit a woman in my life, so I had to do research on. I watched What's Love Got to Do with It with Lawrence Fishburne and
uh,
Angela Bassett.
mm-hmm,
You had to look. I had to get inspiration because I was a mean guy. Every time I came on camera, I was beating her. You know, it was a tough role. And I remember when I finished that role, my wife said, "You got to burn that. You you got to get it out of your system
she's
because
like, don't bring
you
that home.
get into these characters. You have to get there. You got to start
Hmm.
getting things that can motivate you to do the things that you need to do on screen. Okay, and and that takes an in-depth analysis first of your character, the script and the background that you have, and you're developing your character because it ain't me, it's somebody else. I'm playing somebody. It's like a
Yeah,
it's like a some judicial. You're doing jujitsu in your mind and trying to get
Yeah,
into character and to try to be somebody that you're not. But that comes
absolutely.
with the training and the more you do it and the people that you're working around, your scene partners and getting developing a chemistry with them. A lot
hmm,
that goes into it because when you're watching these people on screen, these A-listers, these folks that have been doing this, like Denzel and you know Angela Bassett, folks that have been they put in their work. You
hmm,
know, it looks so easy.
Yeah.
They
yep,
did it
And it,
right.
have you noticed that like each of your roles, a little bit for me, it was like each of my positions. So like in the beginning, your first job, you feel
Yeah,
like novice, you feel like you
yeah,
don't know what's going on, what you're doing, you're all nervous. And then little by little, as every job you get, you just get better and better.
exactly.
And to me that was very satisfying because
It is.
then once you've become like specialized, right? you're just like, oh, nobody can top, the work that
Right.
you're doing or something, or when someone tries to tell you. And I love that about like any career, that basically as you get good or as you get better,
Yeah,
there's no stopping you. There's no stopping
right.
you. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you have to
Yeah.
have a passion for what you do. You really
Yes.
do.
Yes. It
Lester, you
can't feel like
mentioned,
work. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
doing something that you enjoy. You got to have something that will motivate you. Something that if you could do it for free, not get paid, but you do it. You got to
Brad,
have a passion for it.
you just said it. I was getting
Yeah.
ready to piggyback off and say that you, and I tell all the youth, anyone I've mentored, that when you are looking for a career and you're in your passion, you are going to do that thing even if you weren't getting paid for it.
Hmm.
Right.
Right? So you hit the
Absolutely.
nail on the head. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
100%.
But getting paid is great.
Yes. Oh, that was our next
Yes.
question.
So
Oh, yeah.
Don't.
yeah, so that's the next
Don't
question.
get it
That is
twisted.
the next question. This conversation is flowing, right?
Yes.
So the next question that was asked is, what are the educational requirements and what are the salary expectations? So what can they expect from these unconventional careers?
What?
That's a
Go ahead.
great question. Well, I would say, well, at least for environmental science, yeah. So obviously, at least for me, everyone else is different. In the very beginning, I made nothing. Like, it was especially doing field work, but it was stuff that I loved. I loved doing it, and I learned a lot. I would be doing in the field. I would be like studying total coliforms for like stream restoration and things like that. Really great work. I remember working with Native Hawaiians, talking about like water quality standards, how that would do. But it wasn't like I. It didn't pay a mortgage. I knew that I couldn't afford a house with the work that I was doing. I loved it, but there was no way it would pay
Right.
like a car and a mortgage and all that jazz. So but the work was amazing. But what I've noticed is that little by little, as you increase your skill set, you as you learn how to do more things and as you learn to grow,
Yeah.
you will eventually make a living. And that's how it worked for me, but it did take a good while. And I also had to uh so like the positions that I had, if I would move up, it was really a monetary position, not because I wanted to leave the work, but
Hmm.
because they paid me more and I had to, like,
Right.
obviously survive. So I kept going. But a funny thing is, what I noticed is, in any job or any position, you get to kind of mold your job in terms of, like, if there are certain things that you like I still use graphic design in my, like, I help out doing like posters, or I use my photography in other different ways. So you find those skill sets that you can still use them. Um but I would tell someone that it for at least for the sciences, in the very beginning, you probably won't make a lot, and you won't, but eventually, as you get better at the work that you're doing and you specialize, you make a good amount. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Thank you
in the
for that
DC area,
transparency.
where it's, yeah, and where it's expensive and stuff like that, you learn, as a Latina, you learn to live cheaply. I'll be quite
Yeah.
honest. Like, in the beginning, I learned how to live cheaply. So, yeah, because you had to. So that's what
Yeah.
I did.
Well,
Right.
y'all heard of the term of a starving or struggling actor or actress?
Yes, yes,
Starving
yes.
Well,
artist.
Yes.
that's true, right? Because when you start out doing this, I started out doing community theater. You don't get paid in community theater. That's volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if you have a passion for something, you'll do it. Now, the beautiful thing for me is that I retired in 2016. I've been retired for 9 years. So, It ain't like I'm pressed. I retired CSR, federal government, GS-13. I had a, I have a pension. I mean, so I'm not pressed for gigs because I know my mortgage is going to be paid. Okay, my bills are going to get paid. So I have the flexibility to accept jobs, do the things that I want to do, to go on auditions, to travel, those are kinds of things. And when you start out,
Mm,
you may start out doing some background stuff. You on set 12 hours, you made $250. Okay.
mm-hmm.
And you can
Yeah.
move up. You can, you once you become SAG, Screen Actors Guild. I'm SAG eligible. I haven't joined SAG. Okay. One of the reasons why is because I'm older and I don't know if I have that drive to want to go to Atlanta and go to LA and really just grind for this. So I can pick projects that are not gonna allow that that I can choose to go how far I want to go and do the work. I've gone down to North Carolina, places like that, Philadelphia, but I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love the art,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the art.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can get paid. There are people that they do this full time. I I do role play for the Secret Service. I have a contract with them where do we act out from the scenarios to train agents and uniform division folk. Okay, I work when I want to work. Um, I also have a contract with a company called Autonomy where we do medical industrials. I can play a doctor, a patient, or a caregiver. They film up in Bethesda. So there are other ways to do and make money doing this.
Mm,
Sometimes you can strike good. And I had a woman, a friend of my daughter's. They had moved to the D.C. area, and she knew that I was acting. And she has a son. He was at the time he was about like 8 or 9 years old, and she reached out to me to find out about some casting agents for kids in this area, and I hooked her up with Linda Townsend Management. That little boy blew up. He's done Disney movies. They moved to California. Okay, whole family because he's
Wow.
just a cute little kid,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got that look that directors are looking for.
mhm.
I mean, just it
Right.
happens, you know. I hope it happens to me one day, but hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna just still do what I do. But it can happen. You can get on a film, and that film could just blow up. I was just reading the other day that some of these shows like Two and a Half Men, that show's been off TV. Friends been off TV for years. They're still making millions of dollars. What's that guy's name? Seinfeld makes over $40 million a year off of residuals.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
and they are in they're
and
still playing
residuals.
those
He
shows
had to work. He had to work another day in his life. The money's just there.
Yep.
you know. And that's, guys like Will Smith, these guys and
Right.
Denzel, they making 20, $30 million a film.
Mhm.
But they ain't nothing compared to some of those residuals that they get.
Correct.
I mean, because and it can last you a lifetime, and then it goes to your family after you pass on.
Mhm.
That's the residual thing about this business. It's a beautiful thing. You can get it, and you just work. You just continue to do the work. We say do work. That's what we do. Do the work.
Yeah,
You
it sounds like I'm hearing you say, you're honing your craft. So you may not make a lot of money at first, but you're honing your craft.
you,
And then this in that business, when you think actor, you think, all right, everyone's making $1 million. But there are so many components to acting that we don't, we don't even really think too much into it. We see the big
right.
screen, we see the TV, but there's so many more
There's
things
so
that you
many other
it's
things.
what you make it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's the beautiful thing about it, because some of the stuff I didn't know. I mean, doing commercials. I've had national commercials. You get paid. The thing is that the opportunities will come. You have to keep your ear to the ground. I have an agent. Now your agent, they have other clients. So you as an actor, you're still out here looking on Backstage and Actors Access and all these other sites and looking for auditions that you're doing on your own because you're an independent artist. You get a contract, you sign that contract, you show up on set, you're prepared, you know your lines, you know your spots, and you do your job and you get on and you're looking for the next project. Okay, that's what this business is about. You can't just sit back, oh, somebody's going to discover me. It don't work like that. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you can get lucky. But most of the times you're out here grinding. That's what we call it. You're on the grind, you
Right,
know. And,
absolutely.
but it's
And
a
there
it's a
there
grind
was
that you enjoy
and it
doing.
Right.
and it reminds me of
That's
there was
awesome. Very
a
inspirational.
no, I was just gonna say I was reading about a certain individual who wrote Yellowstone, and he just wrote a script which
Yeah.
was about basically about land and how to be a cowboy. And
Mm-hmm.
now Yellowstone has blown up. You have Kevin Costner, you have, and then you have sequels
Yeah.
and pre-sequels.
Taylor shit right.
And he started writing at 40. So I would tell students or anyone, you're gonna evolve. You're gonna start liking different things. So don't worry. But definitely the interest that you have, he stuck like he literally wrote that script, and now
Mm-hmm.
and now he's a millionaire. And I'll tell you why, because not only did he write the script, he purchased the land where they're doing Yellowstone, got investors, and now the studios is paying him to like more money just doing that, because obviously it was his idea. He did all that.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's it's amazing, the different roads,
Yeah.
the fork of for stuff that you do as you get
Yeah. You
older.
you
So,
got a,
but
you
that's
get a
great.
good
Yeah.
point about age. It doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah.
If you
Doesn't
got
matter.
something, you
Yeah.
got to do it. I started this stuff. I was like what 58, almost 60 years old, trying to do
Yeah.
this. So you just
Yeah.
got to go for it.
Yeah, it's
And
never too late.
it's never too late, and you're never too old.
Never too late. Yeah.
You know, my wife is writing a book right now. She's about finishing up a book, her first novel. She's done. She retired from the government, but writing a book. She's been a leathersmith. She made leather purses and handbags for women. She's she's done belly casting for pregnant women. She paints. So
Mhm.
you and the thing, I think one of the things about retiring, okay, you say you're gonna retire, right? You gotta have something to do.
Yeah. Keep you
You
busy. Yeah.
gotta have something to keep your mind sharp. You gotta have something that's gonna keep you occupied. I mean, learning lines. I gotta it keeps me sharp. I gotta learn these lines. I gotta be on set. So um, these are the things. When I do role play, that's part of doing ad lib. Because they give you a scenario, and you gotta be realistic. Because I played the president as a protectee. I played. Um, we go down to the White House. I go down to the White House, and where they have the K9 units, and they put actual bomb odors on us, and we're walking in through the crowds as tourists. Okay, and so these dogs can get training, making sure that they're motivated. They can detect certain things. Same with they out on where the training facility is, the Wildlands Training Center for the Secret Service. It's only about 15 minutes from here, from my house in Laurel. And they got Air Force One out there. They got Marine One. They have little towns, and I go riding through there, and they shooting and trying to kill me and all that stuff, playing the president. These are the things that they do because they're training these agents from all over to make sure that they're on their jobs. Okay, so there's just so many things that you can do. You get paid, you know, not
Yeah,
a contract.
amazing.
Um, the director of what is that? Bad Boys, Michael Bay.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Michael Bay director. He did Bad Boys. He did the Transformers and all that. He came. We did a commercial for the Secret Service, and he directed it. I had a picture of him on my IMDb page. Me and him.
Oh
Oh
wow.
wow.
Okay.
I like that.
Fascinating. You both have very fascinating careers. Like I said, I'm inspired just listening to you. My wheels are turning about my next
That's
move in life. That is
right,
absolutely
right.
wonderful. So I think we have a couple more questions. This has been a very interesting discussion. So I am so elated that you all joined us. So, Sora Morgan, did you have our next Phil question?
Yes. So I think we did cover some of this. We did talk about some challenges that you all faced, which is great, and you've given some advice. I do want to ask a specific question to Sora Alexia in reference to the educational steps. Like, what did you have to study? Did you just have to do? I know you said you have your master's too. Is it important to continue that education? Um, you know, to
Okay. So I have so I have a bachelor's in environmental science and also a master's in environmental science. I want to say, so for your masters, I was lucky enough that I had a full-time job at the time when I was doing my masters. So the company that I was working with paid some of my masters, but I had to get an A. I had to get an A. And if you think about it, masters, you can't get anything below a C. You really
see.
can't. So they paid for that education, and I not all of it, but they paid for some of it, and that, I would say, kept me in the running for, I would imagine, other positions, because in DC it's, let's say, saturated of masters and PhDs, and the way this town goes. So for me, I knew that I needed at least a master's for if I wanted to, get a better living. But one thing that I would say, and a lot of students are obviously doing this now. There's FAFSA that helps with getting loans and grants and all that jazz. But this was before, remember, this was before Google when I was studying, so I'm sure it's a totally different system on how they're doing it now. But I applied. I remember being in the library, like, until they closed, trying all the scholarships that I could. I applied to Coca-Cola. I got that scholarship, and I think it was like $200, but it was something. And so
Mhm.
I just
Mhm.
kept applying. I applied to everything I could think of, and little by little, you know, it helped with my education. So I would say, for the classes that you would take, obviously, are organic chemistry. You need math. You really do, especially now in this day and age. But so I took a lot of math, I took a lot of science, economics, and then what I noticed, and this was before YouTube, because YouTube is actually a pretty good tutor for some math classes. Like, if you're not good in math, there's actually a lot of tutors out there in YouTube that can help you, that can assist you with that. But at the time, I obviously wouldn't have YouTube, so I focused on getting, like, when I was in high school, getting tutors on classes that I might not be striving as well. And then uh aside from tutors, another thing that I did was, and I tell students this. I say, I understand why some people, like, sit in the back because they're either shy or they're, like, they don't want to be as engaging. I always sat in the front, always, because to me, I knew that that teacher was a resource, and I felt I was going to learn as much as I could from whoever was teaching me, and I felt that that was like a privilege. So I sat in the front and I asked all the questions, and I think that was helpful. So definitely a lot of classes. I would say that if you're thinking about doing your PhD, that you might not have to pay for, because a PhD is usually for a university, and a university wants you to have that research, and they usually pay for that if you have a really good dissertation. So but it's really up to you. It's really, some people, and I've met a lot of a lot of people that are very successful without a degree, without that piece of paper. So each individual strives differently. Um, so it really just depends on what you want to learn and what you want to study and how you want to go about it. But I will tell you one thing that my mother always told me from the very beginning. She always said, "Don't let anyone outwork you, ever." And that was something that I used in everything, in
Hmm.
every job that I've had. So that kind of helped. And even in a funny job, I remember I was Pikachu at the mall doing photography, and I remember the name of the place. It was called Studio 2. I was in high school, and they had asked me, "Do you want to be Pikachu?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll be Pikachu," because you take pictures with the kids, and I was the best Pikachu that you ever because I was like, just like entertain. So every job you get, whatever, you are gonna learn to be the best that you can do, and I enjoyed it. I still have pictures of me in that costume, but whatever it is, like, be good at it, and then
You're
you
good
learn.
at it.
That's how you grow.
That's
So
right.
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I always say you never know who's watching in my
Mhm.
Absolutely.
business. You never know who's in that
Yeah.
audience. You never know who sees your film, who sees your social media, and reach out to you because they like, oh, I got a role for you. I'm writing a role for you. This movie that I just did, it's going to be shown at the film festival down in Virginia. The director, he had seen me in some other things, and he called me for it was like it was an audition, but it was like a table read. But he told me he said, Brad, I wrote this role for you because he had seen me in
Mhm.
something else.
Mhm.
It was an honor because it was like,
Nice.
man, he wrote this role for me because he's seen my work. You know, that
Absolutely.
makes you feel good. You don't have to audition. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I don't mind
You got to
auditioning,
put yourself out there.
but if somebody's written something for you and it's like they know that you can do it, it's a good feeling. It's a great feeling,
Absolutely.
and
and
that's
you
the
just have to
kicker.
be ready.
Definitely
You have to,
having that confidence.
yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta be ready. You gotta be ready. You gotta know. That's why you studying. You studying monologues. I do that. I'm reading my monologues because they'll call you up and say, "Hey, look, I need you to do this audition." Just have a prepared monologue. You gotta drop off that. You gotta boom hit it.
Mhm.
You know, and just be ready. And you said something else, Alexa is sitting on the front row. I like to sit on the front row as well.
Yeah.
First is so I don't have any distractions. I have ADHD. Okay, you can get distracted. So if I'm sitting on the front row, I can focus on what's going on. The lesson. Okay,
Absolutely.
and it's just something that's always been in me in college and front row. I didn't need distractions.
Right.
So you can get the information that you need. When I'm on
Absolutely.
set and you're working with some A-listers, I'm watching them. I'm seeing how they operate, what they're doing, how they're preparing. You watch this stuff and you incorporate that into what you do. That's how you learn and get better at this craft. And the more you do that, the more comfortable that you feel, the better you are about doing what you need to do in order to land that gig. And you go in there with confidence, walk in that room, and it's like, top that.
Right.
Because that's
That
what you
that's the
got
best
to
part, Brian, that you mentioned about the confidence, because
Yeah,
that's one of the things that they don't tell you, but you do have to have it. And I remember, because you will be, sometimes you get judged by like how you look, or
yeah,
or how you're dressed or whatever. And I remember one time I was in a room full of like scientists and engineers, and I was semi new or whatever. And some people had used, and in this line of field there isn't that many women. I'm gonna be honest, there isn't that many women. Hopefully now there's a lot more. But when I started, I remember I entered that room, and I was like, and it was technically my meeting. And I remember someone saying, "Oh, no, 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 we're waiting for Alex Martinez." And I looked around and I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." let's get started. Take a seat.
Yeah,
And then they were like, oh shit. They like,
yeah,
I saw it in their eyes that they were
yeah.
like, holy crap. And you have to go in with confidence, and you have to
You
be
do.
like, show
Yeah, you do.
show your knowledge, your talent, because that's what you're here for. And I love that part that you mentioned about going into that room with confidence, because
Yeah, you got to.
that's
You
how it
got to step
works.
in there like, hey, I got
Yeah.
this. Because casting directors, they they've seen your reel, they've seen your headshot, they've seen your resume, right? When you walk in that room, they want to see just can you act. You're halfway there because they invited you.
Mhm.
Okay,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you just go in there and you make them make that tough decision. You make them because they may not be the only ones that's sitting behind that table. I've been there casting and hiring actors and directors when I was president on the board at Bowie Community Theater. So you're on the other side of that desk and you're making these decisions about who's going to play this part, who's going to direct this, who's going to be the stage manager, all of these things that you do as a producer and putting that show together and all that. So when they walk in there, you don't like, see, show me what you got. You have to bring it. You may have a minute, 2 minutes, and that's it.
Right.
You just got to give it to them. You walk out.
Gravitas.
Absolutely.
You walk out, and it's like,
Yeah.
when I leave an audition, it's like I have no control of any of that process. It's just this is me. This is what I do. This is what I can bring to the table. And that's it. And I walk out, and I'm like, I'm next, next. I'm going to the next project because this is what you do. You keep doing it. You keep doing it,
Right.
and you don't stop.
Yeah.
You don't stop.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of effort. It takes a lot of patience, perseverance, and persistence to do it. But hey, that's what you do. That's what you signed up for, you know? And I encourage anybody that's out there that's listening, find your passion and go for it. Don't let
Absolutely.
anybody talk you out of it. Don't let anybody tell you what you can't do because you
Mhm.
can do what you set your mind to. The
I agree.
naysayers, I,
Yes.
you just, man, if I started this stuff 20 years ago, no telling where I'd be. But I did it. But I'm
Right.
here now,
Absolutely.
and I'm going to do it until the day I die.
All right.
uh,
I am.
you, you all have been so inspirational tonight.
Yes.
We have learned a lot. I don't know about Sora Dawn, but I'm taking away some of these gems that you all have dropped on us. And it's been so inspiring to listen to two sides of completely different careers here, but still same foundation and motivation. So we appreciate you. Want to thank you again. Hopefully, maybe you can come out and maybe speak in person to the field. You never know. We got some things happening with them, so
Sure.
we appreciate your time. Sora Dawn, do you have anything you want to say to wrap us up?
I just want to say that this has been a phenomenal discussion and very, like Sora Morgan said, very, very inspirational. For me, has my wheels turning. I have so many ideas and of things that I would like to do. Maybe not full time, maybe part time, and I've been toying with a few things. But this has given me the inspiration to say, you know what? I'm going to go out and run that marathon.
There you
Yes.
go.
And I'm going to show up with gravitas. I'm going
Good.
to be confident in what I'm doing. So this has
Yes.
been so phenomenal. And we, again, like Morgan said, we just appreciate you beyond belief. I'm so happy you two were destined to get on this live with us and discuss this. So I'm hoping
Yes.
that those out there listening, that they have been inspired and that they have been motivated to go for what they know.
Absolutely.
And I
Thank
gotta
you
put a,
so much
and I gotta put a
again.
plug
Thank you,
in.
everyone who's
Just,
out there
just
listening.
Google, just
Just
Google,
go.
Brad.
Google Brad Eaton.
I,
Yes.
I got you, Brad. I'm
See
going to watch tracks and I'm
my
going to have a
film.
side eye when I meet you. Like,
Yes.
Just Google that name and take it to my IMBD page. This is all about
Yes.
promoting. See some of my films, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate the opportunity to be able to share some thoughts with you all tonight.
Thank you
absolutely.
Thank you
so
Thank you
too.
much.
Thank
so
you,
much.
Sorors.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sora
Sarah.
Alexia. We'll see you guys next time.
Alrighty.
Have a good one,
Have a
everyone.
good evening. Enjoy
All
the
right.
weekend.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everybody.